Imagine you're the lead in Disney's next big fairy tale, poised to become Hollywood's newest sensation. You've got the star power, the vocal chops, and the backing of the world's most famous studio. Then, in less time than it takes to say happily ever after, it all crumbles. That's exactly what happened to Rachel Zegler, a rising talent who seemed destined for Disney princess greatness. Instead, she found herself at the center of one of the most dramatic flops in recent memory, an eye-wateringly expensive remake of Snow White that devolved into a full-blown disaster, complete with behind-the-scenes chaos, political firestorms, co-star feuds, and so many empty theaters you could hear crickets echo off the popcorn machines. Let's dissect every layer of Rachel Zegler's Snow White fiasco. From the day she was crowned Disney's next big star to the moment Disney executives literally flew across the country to contain a PR meltdown and still couldn't salvage the film. We'll explore why Disney spent over $250 million and possibly up to $270 million on this modernized fairy tale. What really sparked the tension between Rachel Zegler and her co-star Gal Gadot? Was it personal? Political? A clash of personalities? How a high-stakes box office flop left theaters so empty that fans, or lack thereof, started joking about a GoFundMe to help Disney break even. The dwarfs controversy that unleashed a firestorm, with people calling out Disney for hypocrisy and last-minute CGI stand-ins that fell flat. Rachel's social media moves ignited arguments on all sides, leading Disney to impose strict controls on her posts and allegedly pay for a social media expert to manage the meltdown. By the end, you'll see exactly why this film went from a top-tier Disney remake to a cautionary tale about the dangers of mixing personal politics, studio expectations, and a legacy brand struggling to go modern. If you love insider drama, jaw-dropping Hollywood missteps, and the kind of celeb meltdown that ends up as a trending topic for weeks, strap in. This story is packed with tea. Let's rewind to the time before the Snow White remake spiraled into chaos. Rachel Zegler entered the Hollywood spotlight with her acclaimed performance in West Side Story, 2021, directed by none other than Steven Spielberg. She was celebrated for her powerhouse voice, heartfelt acting, and fresh-faced charm. Critics labeled her the next big thing in musical cinema. According to several industry analysts, Disney quickly took note. Casting scouting. Insiders on various film forums rumored that Disney had originally scouted multiple actresses for Snow White. However, once Zegler's West Side Story buzz kicked into high gear, it's said that Disney pulled some strings to lock her in. Big ambitions. At the time, the narrative was that the studio wanted a more modern and inclusive take on Snow White. They touted Zegler's casting as a statement on celebrating diversity. Latina representation. Zegler is of Colombian descent, and many praised Disney for casting the first Latina Snow White. But from the get-go, some corners of the internet weren't happy. They questioned why a traditionally fair-skinned character was being reimagined so drastically. Others championed the move, calling it progressive. Initially, Zegler's star soared. She had Hollywood's support, Spielberg's endorsement, and a seat at Disney's royal table. What could possibly go wrong? Well, everything apparently. From the moment the casting was announced, controversy flared. Some fans expressed excitement about a Snow White who broke the mold. Others accused Disney of tokenism and of forcing wokeness. Zegler, known for her candid and feisty social media presence, didn't hold back. Social media clashes. In a since-deleted tweet, Rachel fired back at critics who questioned her casting, saying something along the lines of not needing to bleach her skin for a cartoon character. People loved her energy or hated it. There was very little in between. Tension over purity. She also commented that certain fans were obsessed with the bloodline purity of Snow White, implying that their objections to her ethnicity were rooted in racism. On the one hand, it was a powerful statement. On the other, it ratcheted up the hostility from those who felt attacked. Meanwhile, Disney was pushing the narrative. This isn't your grandma's Snow White. They repeatedly teased how the story would be updated to reflect modern sensibilities. No helpless princess, no archaic love story. Instead, we'd get a headstrong Snow White who champions her own destiny. This sounded good in theory, but diverging too far? Some longtime Disney fans grumbled that if you change the story too much, it stops being the tale people fell in love with. Peter Dinklage's critique. The Emmy-winning actor famously lambasted Disney for touting their progressive casting while still, in his view, perpetuating backwards tropes about dwarfs living in a cave. The studio panicked, leading to the now infamous CGI dwarfs that upset both people in the dwarfism community, who felt robbed of roles, and fans who found the replacements off-putting. From a PR standpoint, the project was quickly morphing into an ideological minefield. Disney was stuck between appeasing a modern audience and not alienating its classic fan base. Yet, the real drama was just getting started. One of the key flashpoints came when Rachel Zegler openly criticized the 1937 Snow White film. In interview snippets that circulated on social media, credited to sources like Variety and Entertainment Weekly, though not always official transcripts, Rachel called the original storyline weird and said the prince's behavior bordered on stalking. She also stated that the remake would drop the love story altogether. Audience backlash, calling a beloved Disney classic weird, especially when you're starring in its remake, was seen by some as a major faux pas. Traditional Disney fans felt disrespected, and it turned into a social media argument about respecting the original versus embracing change. Multiple viral clips, countless YouTube channels and TikTok creators replayed the snippets of Rachel's interview, fueling a viral wave of negativity. The story turned from Rachel Zegler is Disney's new princess into Rachel Zegler is biting the hand that feeds her. Some fans tried to defend Rachel, arguing that she was merely pointing out how 1930s narratives don't always hold up under modern scrutiny. But her choice of words, terms like weird, stalker prince, and I wouldn't let that happen to me, didn't exactly play well. Insiders rumored that Disney's PR team was pulling their hair out at Zegler's candid remarks. Instead of building excitement, she was turning off potential viewers, including families who cherish the fairy tale in its original form. Let's talk about the Seven Dwarfs, or the lack thereof. Peter Dinklage set off this powder keg when he expressed his surprise that Disney was championing diversity by casting a Latina Snow White, yet still appearing to rely on outdated stereotypes about dwarfs. Disney's knee-jerk reaction. Almost immediately, Disney announced they'd be using magical creatures, or CGI placeholders for the dwarfs. The images leaked online, spotted in a rumored set photo and teased in social media posts from background actors. Fans found the new designs bizarre and soulless. Blowback from the dwarf community. Many actors with dwarfism felt Disney was erasing opportunities for them to appear in a major film. One tweet from an actor with dwarfism read, "Why can't Disney reimagine the dwarfs as complex characters rather than cut us out entirely?" Rachel's silence. During this fiasco, Rachel made no supportive statements. Some speculated she was trying to avoid more controversy, but in an age where silence is often interpreted as complicity, it only furthered the negative discourse around the film. All told, this was a major stumble for a movie already under an intense spotlight. It seemed like every attempt to be modern backfired. Fans of the original dwarfs felt cheated, advocates saw it as a missed representation, and those who disliked the entire project used it as more ammo against Disney's wokeness. When it came time for Snow White's release, estimates of its production cost had ballooned to around $270 million. Some industry insiders pegged the budget lower, at $250 million, but either figure is colossal for a live-action Disney remake. Minimal marketing. Despite the huge budget, fans noticed a distinct lack of promotional push. There were fewer trailers, sparse press events, and limited tie-in merchandise. Rumors swirled that Disney had begun to cut its losses, suspecting the film wouldn't land well. Opening weekend disaster. According to various box office tracking sites, e.g. Box Office Mojo, the film earned a paltry $3.5 million in Thursday previews and roughly $43 million by the end of its opening weekend, a heartbreakingly small haul for a Disney remake. Even the widely criticized Dumbo remake, which had a smaller budget, opened to around $45 million. In one of the more surreal moments of this fiasco, Rachel Zegler was spotted at a local movie theater on what appears to be March 25th, according to a viral TikTok and multiple reposts. The footage showed her in an almost empty auditorium, cheering for herself with a few friends clutching Snow White-themed popcorn buckets. Viral TikTok. The content, posted originally by a friend or fan, was meant to be celebratory, like, "Hey, Rachel is just grateful." But the scene of a star alone in a quiet theater was grim. People on social media joked, "She's literally the only person watching her movie." Bouquet of flowers. She had a bouquet, presumably a gift, but it only underscored the sadness of the moment. A few cynics teased that the flowers were there to console her for the non-existent box office returns. This was the cherry on top of a train wreck. A big Disney film that was supposed to ride the hype wave ended up languishing in deserted auditoriums, and the star was ironically there to witness it firsthand. One of the most significant subplots in this saga involves Rachel Zegler's co-star Gal Gadot. As a well-known actress from Israel, Wonder Woman, Fast and Furious franchises, Gal carried her own star power and fan base into Snow White. Initially, the pair seemed friendly, even hyping each other on social media during early production. Oscars 2025 awkwardness. According to watchers of that year's Academy Awards, when Rachel and Gal presented an award together, it felt tense. Body language experts in viral YouTube breakdowns pointed out they hardly made eye contact. Professional pageant queen post. Rachel posted a behind-the-scenes photo on Instagram referencing Gal as a professional pageant queen. While Gal was indeed a former beauty pageant competitor, Miss Israel, many interpreted Rachel's words as a dig. The post sparked heated debates about whether Rachel was mocking Gal's pageant history. The Instagram snub. Later, Rachel made a heartfelt gratitude post about the Snow White cast and crew, but omitted Gal entirely. She thanked the director, the producers, the costume people, and even the catering team, but no mention or photo of Gal. Fans saw it as an unmistakable snub. What truly pushed the tension into meltdown territory was the intersection of Rachel's vocal support for Palestine and Gal's Israeli heritage. Gal previously served in the Israeli Defense Forces, which is mandatory for Israeli citizens. Rachel's pro-Palestine posts. On at least 3 occasions, as documented by screenshots circulating on Twitter, Rachel posted supportive statements for Palestine. She also condemned certain actions by the Israeli government. While many celebrities do speak out on geopolitical issues, the timing here, coinciding with her co-star's nationality, raised eyebrows. Disney footing the security bill. Because Gal allegedly received threats, Disney reportedly paid for extra security for her. Tabloids and social media chatter pointed fingers at Rachel's outspoken activism, claiming it inflamed tensions. This political layer catapulted the Snow White remake from a mere creative controversy to a full-on, international drama. The tension between co-stars, one perceived as pro-Palestine, the other an Israeli national, was a nightmare for a family-friendly brand like Disney, which typically avoids direct entanglement with hot-button geopolitical issues. Another viral moment arrived after a U.S. presidential election. Rachel allegedly wrote something along the lines of, "May Trump supporters never know peace." This took the controversy to new heights, as she targeted a massive demographic in the United States, many of whom might be Disney's own customers. Executive intervention. Various insider blogs and gossip outlets, like Dumois or Crazy Days and Nights, hinted that Mark Platt, the film's producer, flew out to meet Rachel in person. He reportedly tried to rein in her social media usage, emphasizing the stakes for a major Disney release. Social media expert. Another rumor is that Disney enlisted a specialist to vet Rachel's posts before she hit publish. Whether that fully happened or not, some fans noticed her tone shift slightly in official promotional materials, though not enough to prevent the growing avalanche of backlash. In a twist that fed the rumor mill, Jonah Platt, Mark Platt's son, allegedly posted a scathing remark, later deleted, implying Rachel's personal politics and confrontational style were damaging the movie's chances. Some fans screenshotted the post, which read something akin to, "You can't alienate half the country and expect them to support your film." Whether or not that captures the exact wording, the sentiment reverberated. Even the producer's family was calling out Rachel for unprofessional behavior. It was a drama-laden moment that further spotlighted how tensions had escalated beyond typical on-set squabbles. For a typical Disney live-action remake, you'd expect a lavish premiere in Los Angeles, complete with a red carpet, elaborate set pieces, and the entire cast smiling for cameras. Not this time. Low-key screenings. Disney opted for a daytime screening in LA with minimal fanfare. Reports from attendees said it felt more like a private screening than a blockbuster launch. European castle premiere. The European premiere took place in a Spanish castle, presumably to evoke that fairy tale vibe. But even that was scaled down, with minimal promotion and little press coverage. Observers speculated it was a half-hearted attempt to meet contractual obligations. People who follow film marketing closely, advertising watchers, promotional tie-in trackers, noted the near absence of major cross-promotions, brand deals, or the usual Disney synergy on other platforms. You didn't see Snow White plastered on soda cans, cereal boxes, or toy aisles in the same capacity as, say, The Little Mermaid, 2023, or Beauty and the Beast, 2017. All signs pointed to Disney wanting to limit further damage. They seemed to hedge their bets, quietly fulfilling the film's release requirements while hoping the controversy would fade sooner rather than later. In Hollywood, reputations are everything. Rachel Zegler had soared to stardom with West Side Story, but the Snow White catastrophe cast a massive shadow over her once promising trajectory. Industry insiders began whispering that she was difficult to manage and too outspoken, 2 labels that can be deadly in showbiz circles. Future casting doubts. While some progressive studios might embrace her passion, more risk-averse players could shy away. They might see her as a potential PR headache if not carefully managed. Disney's next steps. Could Disney recast Snow White for future expansions, like sequels or spin-offs? While it's rare for Disney to change an actress once chosen for a live-action lead, the scale of this fiasco might prompt unprecedented decisions. One detail that fans and critics alike won't forget is how bizarre the CGI dwarfs looked. Countless Twitter threads roasted the designs, calling them budget Lord of the Rings extras, or the fever dream dwarfs. It's a testament to how last-minute panic decisions can overshadow a film's potential plus points, like set design, special effects, or even costume improvements. Hindsight is 2020. But many observers believe Disney's biggest mistake was not unifying the film's messaging early on. The studio wanted a modern Snow White, yet they didn't handle the dwarf's issue gracefully. They wanted an outspoken star for social media clout, but they ended up with unpredictable controversies. A more balanced approach. Some argue that they could have let Rachel speak her mind about certain social issues while reminding her to stay respectful of Disney's heritage and broader audience. Stronger PR coaching. Usually, Disney invests heavily in media training, especially with younger stars. Where was that training here? Did Rachel reject it, or was it insufficient? The Meltdown is a fascinating case study in Hollywood brand management. Even giant studios can fall victim to poor communication, rushed decisions, and the unstoppable force of social media blowback. Online, the fiasco unfolded in real time, with fans, casual onlookers, and drama channels weighing in. Hashtag Snow White flop. This hashtag trended intermittently, especially after the humiliating opening weekend numbers came out. Memes of empty theaters. People posted photos or screen grabs from seat selection apps, claiming entire rows were still available on a Saturday night. While some might have been fake, the narrative that nobody is watching this movie took off. Fan theories. Did Gal and Rachel secretly despise each other from day one? Was Disney trying to sabotage its own film to collect insurance? Were certain critics review bombing the movie because they disliked the casting? The rumor mill spun out of control. Amid the comedic jabs, there was also genuine disappointment from fans who loved the idea of a modern Snow White, but felt the execution was deeply flawed. Rachel Zegler is still young and talented, with a compelling on-screen presence. Hollywood loves a comeback story, so it's not impossible that she could rebound. One silver lining: she still garners support from fans who admire her activism and blunt honesty. In a post-Snow White world, she might find roles outside the Disney umbrella that let her embrace more adult or edgy material. For Disney, the meltdown might prompt big changes in how they handle big-budget remakes and cast young stars. They might impose stricter guidelines on press interviews or social media usage, or possibly reconsider the entire approach to modernizing beloved classics, ensuring they keep the charm that made them famous in the first place. Marvel and Star Wars. If Disney keeps up these live-action reimaginings, they might also pull strategies from their other powerhouse brands. Marvel and Star Wars casts typically undergo extensive media training to avoid controversies. Will that become mandatory for future Disney princesses? It's too early to say whether the Snow White remake will stand as Disney's worst flop, or just a cautionary example for the next reboot. But it will undoubtedly shape corporate strategies going forward. So there you have it, the full story of how a much-anticipated Snow White remake spiraled into a fiasco overshadowed by controversial casting choices, political and cultural debates, feuds between co-stars that spilled onto social media, an actress whose outspoken nature clashed with Disney's carefully curated image, a final box office result that left theaters practically echoing. At its heart, this meltdown teaches us that pushing boundaries in legacy franchises is tricky business. Get it right, and you can win over a new generation while keeping longtime fans. Get it wrong, and you create a perfect storm of fan backlash, bad press, and a potential box office disaster. Whether you see Rachel Zegler as a bold truth-teller or a PR liability, her Snow White experience underscores how quickly an actor's social media presence can shift public perception, especially when a global studio is involved. Before you go, I want to hear from you. Who do you think is primarily responsible for this mess? Disney's higher-ups for failing to control the narrative, or Rachel Zegler for speaking too freely? Would you have watched the Snow White remake if not for the negative buzz? Should classic stories be modernized heavily, or should studios stick closer to the source material? Let's chat in the comments. I'll be pinning a poll to the top of the section so you can vote on who you think dropped the ball the most. If you enjoyed this deep dive into Hollywood drama, or just want more breakdowns of how big studios sometimes fumble the ball, make sure to hit the like button if you're on YouTube. Drop your thoughts in the comments, team modernization versus team classic tradition. Subscribe or follow for the latest tea on celebrity feuds, box office showdowns, and behind-the-scenes Hollywood intrigue. We've got a ton of chaos and drama lined up. Trust me, you won't want to miss what's coming next. Sneak peek. In our next video, we'll explore another controversial remake fiasco that nearly derailed an entire franchise and put a beloved actor on the outs with fans. Stay tuned, because Hollywood drama never sleeps, and neither do we. To cap things off, here's a rapid-fire set of details, rumors, and tidbits collected from various entertainment news sites and fan forums. Take them with the usual grain of salt. Redesigning Snow White's costume. Early test audience reactions apparently disliked the initial costume for being drab and unprincess-like. Disney scrambled to make last-minute tweaks, but the final design still split opinions. Possible cameo that was cut. Rumor has it that an original cast member from the 1937 Snow White voice team was going to make a cameo via archival footage or Easter egg. That plan was allegedly scrapped to avoid overshadowing the new modern take. Peter Dinklage's final word. After the dwarf controversy, he reportedly made one more statement at a press event, clarifying he was not the dwarf authority, but still had concerns about regressive tropes. Disney's pivot to CGI dwarfs seems like it was a direct response to his critique, though the result didn't please many fans. Marketing merch dump. A handful of Snow White-themed toys and apparel quietly landed in clearance bins soon after the box office numbers tanked. Photos on social media showed stacks of unsold dolls, t-shirts, and puzzle sets. And that, folks, is the cautionary tale of how a multi-million-dollar Disney princess remake became a cautionary tale, featuring Twitter feuds, real-world political rifts, and empty theaters echoing with regret. From the moment Rachel Zegler opened her mouth to critique the original Snow White, the film's fate seemed sealed by controversy. Whether you blame the actress, the studio, or the unstoppable might of the internet, one point stands. When you play with fairy tale magic and modern controversies, you risk blowing up the very enchantment that made audiences fall in love in the first place. I'm eager to read your comments. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss the next deep dive into the glitz, glamour, and occasional catastrophes that make Hollywood the world's biggest stage. Until next time, thanks for tuning in. And remember, no matter how big the budget or how iconic the brand, a little drama can turn any would-be fairy tale into a cautionary story for the ages.